This is Jeremy Wentworth-Stanley. I'm the fellow who has a hyphen in my name. The hyphen is silent, but I am anything but that. This is a mini-podcast by Jeremy Wentworth-Stanley. I'm the proprietor of Respectonomics, and its aspiration, its goal, is to restore the dignity of the human being. This particular message is called the living alphabet. And that might make you think, if you say the living alphabet, whether we're going to look at the alphabet and see how it becomes alive. Actually, we're not going to do that. We're going to look at one word, live, L-I-V-E, and talk about it alphabetically. Some might say, technically speaking, we should be talking about it etymologically, because that's the origin of words. But I want to look at live as a word, L-I-V-E, and think about how it affects what we do. We live, we breathe. Descartes said, cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. So in other words, we see living as our existence. But the word live is spelled L-I-V-E, but it can also be spelled E-V-I-L, which of course spells evil. And why that's important is that it shows us the integration in our lives of evil, that evil is a part of our lives. Whether we care to admit it within ourselves, we can certainly agree on the evil that is without ourselves, meaning out of our immediate control, if you will. The fact of the matter is that the presence of evil is something that we all grapple with. And the problem with evil is, aside from the fact that it always ends with painful consequences, it is in fact the original source of shame, it's the original source of grief, it's the original source of guilt, it is the original source of abuse, exploitation, and probably is the basic food for a parasite. We could go on like this and talk about the horrors of evil. But we do see it. And the snag is that when we see it often enough, we become inured to it. It's rather like that beautiful view of the ocean. And somebody says to you, isn't it beautiful? And you almost wake up and you say, my goodness, it is beautiful. I'd never really noticed it before. Well, of course you'd noticed it, but you've seen it so often, it wasn't really affecting or influencing you. And evil is a bit like that. It's very ambient. It's very around us all the time. And because it's now become endemic in the circles of corporate, business, and political leadership, it's almost become allowable as well. In other words, the old standby line is, politicians lie. That is a source of evil or a representation of evil. And the very act of lying therefore becomes enabling, it becomes permissible because it's being done at the highest levels. And the key behind understanding evil is one of those things that really does destroy life. We are fallible people. Human beings are fallible. We're failed. We're fallen. Whichever definition you care to use, evil has a very easy entrance or entryway into our lives. So we need to do two things. One is to recognize the existence of evil. We don't like talking about it. We don't have to give it any advertising or marketing space, but we do need to have at least a sense of respect for it and to understand its nature and its cruelties. Evil is parasitical. It eats its hosts. It destroys us, brings tears, brings anger, brings shame. It does a lot of nasty things. Therefore, as a human being, what I want to do is to have the tools to deal with the source of evil or with the presence of evil. And the truth is, first of all, to understand that when we talked about the alphabet of live, it's so easy to change the letters around and see evil in our lives. And the truth of the matter is it's easy for it to happen. So the first port of call is to have an antenna, to have an antenna that is constantly on alarm on wavelengths to understand when evil is present. And how do you thwart evil? We've all heard those things about integrity and honesty and conviction and standing up for the right and so on. The truth of the matter is, most of us know those things intellectually, but somehow we can't. It might be cultural, it might be laziness, it might be exhaustion, but we can't always fight the battle. And I think the best place for this battle to be fought is within one's soul. The soul is the one place that the enemy of evil really has difficulty getting into. We can fight back on every front from the soul. The soul, of course, needs to be fed. The soul needs the nutrient of faith. It needs the nutrient of some of the greatest callings to humanity of love, compassion, and kindness, hospitality, inclusiveness, all of those words. The truth of the matter is, though, the soul is a wonderful bulwark for bringing all the tools we need to defend and protect and actually to take on evil. I'd like to conclude with one comment, and that is, evil loves darkness. And when the soul is alive and well, it produces a brilliant light, and evil cannot contest with that light. And one last thing. We look at the word live and we recognize it can be spelled evil. We can also see it spelled veil, V-E-I-L. And the darkness is a veiling kind of approach. It covers things up. So we want to be not only the light, but we also want to be the ones who can pick up the corner of the onion skin and pull it back to see the core of whatever we're dealing with and whomever we're dealing with. Let's agree that our purpose is one of love, which is spelled L-O-V-E, and you really can't turn that into evil, can you? I rest my case.